After the amazing sequence of events happening at the 23rd Budokai, with Goku and Yamcha getting married to Chi-Chi and Bulma afterwards, we head into the 5 years of peace with Trunks and Gohan being born, with Trunks here actually being a year older than Gohan. Goku and Yamcha still train with each other over these 5 years, with Goku being able to fully tap into Ikari and mastering it to a similar level to Yamcha. They both have full control over Ikari now, with it putting much less stress on their minds than they did before. But they still have to make sure they don't go overboard, because they can still go berserk by tapping into too much of the Ozaru's power. They even start training Gohan and Trunks from time to time, teaching them the basics but not doing anything crazy because they're still around 4 to 5 years old. We then cut to a random planet with the Saiyans thinking about their next move. That's when Raditz remembers that he has a brother alive on a far off planet called Earth, and it might be good to add him to the squad. Vegeta, not impressed, says, "What use could another low-class Saiyan be when Raditz is already the weakest in the group? If he's just as weak, or weaker than he is, he might as well be left on that backwater planet." Raditz thinks they can use all the help they can get if they're going to face off against Frieza. But at the last second, he remembers that there was another Saiyan also sent out to Earth, and he was the son of one of the Saiyans that were going on those crazy missions for Frieza. He also had some crazy spikes in power randomly. Nappa actually remembers hearing about this. He says he remembers seeing a kid blow up a chamber after one of his training sessions on Planet Vegeta. It also looked like he was harnessing the power of the Ozaru without even transforming. Upon hearing this, Vegeta decides it might be worth adding him to the team if he could actually do that. It might be his chance to even learn that ability himself, since it could realistically give them a massive advantage for him if they decide to face off against Frieza. Them not needing to use the Power Ball to transform could really catch Frieza off guard, since he currently believes that Saiyans can only transform with the help of the full moon. So with their plan made up, they decide they will head off to Earth to pick up Yamcha and Kakarot, with it taking around a year or so to make the journey. Vegeta comes up with the idea of faking their deaths so Frieza wouldn't be suspicious of them by removing their trackers from their space pod and destroying their scouters in a massive explosion, making it seem like their ships were blown up too. With that, they head off to Earth. Back on Earth, Goku and Yamcha meet up with their friends at Capsule Corp, with them having a big party, with even Tien and Chaozu showing up. They introduce Gohan and Trunks to everyone there for the first time, and they continue to have fun. That's when Goku senses a familiar key signature approaching. They land nearby and say it's time for his rematch with Son Goku. It turns out to be Piccolo returning for his rematch he promised after losing in the 23rd Budokai. Goku smiles and accepts as they fly up into the air, ready to start their rematch. They start off staring each other down before launching at each other, clashing, sending shockwaves throughout the area, trading blows back and forth, testing each other's power. That's when Piccolo starts to show off more of his abilities, forcing Goku to have to use more power to combat them. Piccolo then uses his ability to stretch his arms really far to grab Goku by the leg, slamming him into the ground. Caught off guard, Goku gets back up smiling, saying he knew Piccolo would become a great rival being able to keep up with his own growth. Piccolo then smirks, saying "I told you I'd win this time," as he lends a hand to help Goku off the ground. Piccolo and Goku have already gotten past the beef they had during the 23rd Budokai over these 5 years of peace. They even had a few sparring matches and even trained with each other a few times. They fly back to Capsule Corp, with Chi-Chi giving Goku and even Piccolo an earful for causing such a ruckus in the city, with everyone there laughing at him. We fast forward a year as we then see the Saiyans arrive on Earth. They land in a nearby city and immediately they are sensed by everyone on the planet, with Goku, Yamcha, Tien, Krillin, and Piccolo all flying over to confront them. Right off the bat, Yamcha recognizes that they are Saiyans, with Goku and Raditz making eye contact, and Raditz saying, "It's been a long time, little brother." Hearing that Goku had a brother shocked everyone there. They knew he was an alien, but they didn't know he had a brother. Yamcha asks why they're here, with Vegeta explaining his plan to take down Frieza. He then offers him to join the squad, since he could be an amazing asset to the team with his ability to use Ozaru's power at will. Yamcha then asks why he should join them since it took them so long to even remember they existed. Nappa shouts at him, saying, "Show some respect, he is the Prince of Saiyans after all." Piccolo then asks why should they trust him to not backstab them after defeating this Frieza guy. Nappa then responds saying they weren't even considering him since Namekians aren't even comparable to Saiyans in strength. Piccolo is confused about being called a Namekian, but he's also angry considering Nappa just called him weak at the same time. Yamcha then says he will join them if this so-called prince can beat him in the fight. Taking that as a challenge, Vegeta gets into his fight stance, ready to show them why he's the Prince of Saiyans. Real quick, we'll go over power levels. Goku's at a power level of 23k, Piccolo's at a power level of 22k, Yamcha's at a power level of 24k, Tiena's at a power level of 18k, and Krillin's also at a power level of 18k. These guys have been training for 6 years straight, so it's pretty reasonable that they will all have massive gains after all that time. Tien and Krillin have both been to the lookout to train with Kami, gaining the ability to fly and sense and manipulate ki to a much better degree. Moving on to the Saiyans, they actually have grown a lot in strength too, since they've also been doing a lot of missions for Frieza. But Nappa and Raditz got the most out of the game, the most gains out of the three, being Vegeta at 24k, Nappa is at 22k, and Raditz is at 20k. Back to the fight, we see Yamcha and Vegeta rushing at each other, clashing and teleporting all around the area, being dead even in power. Yamcha is the more technical fighter here, parrying and redirection attacks, and Vegeta is the more brutal fighter here, throwing out headbutts and elbows, trying to outright overpower him. They go back and forth for a bit before Vegeta whips out his Gallic gun, with Yamcha responding with a Kamehameha, canceling each other out. That's when Nappa throws up a power ball in the air, allowing Vegeta to transform into the Great Ape. Seeing this, Yamcha smirks as he then powers up, transforming into Kara, showing it off to all the other Saiyans, shocking them. He then fights Vegeta, but him being much smaller than he is, and being the same strength and speed, makes it so much harder for Vegeta to actually land a hit on Yamcha. Yamcha then flies all around Vegeta, attacking him from different angles while doing good damage. He eventually just knocks Vegeta out, ending the fight. Raditz and Nappa are shocked because they didn't think Yamcha would be strong enough to beat Vegeta, especially while he was transformed into a Zoro. The power ball dissipates and Vegeta de-transforms back to his normal state, with him waking up. Goku then offers an alternative plan. They should stay here on Earth for a while and train with them, gaining the strength themselves to defeat that Frieza guy. They could even teach him how to tap into the Zoro's power without transforming like they can. Raditz, confused, asks if he can do the same thing Yamcha did, which Goku says yeah, he's been able to do it for years now, as he transforms into Ikari, shocking everyone there. Vegeta thinks about it and decides they should probably learn this power themselves, since it just might be the next step in becoming the legendary Super Saiyan. The Saiyans train on Earth for a while before Vegeta comments how weak the Earth's gravity is compared to most other planets, leading to Bulma making the gravity room, boosting the gains from training, with the increased gravity up to 200 times Earth gravity being achieved. They train on Earth for about 2 years before leaving with the ability to use Ikari at will, gaining some new abilities and growing significantly in strength. We'll go over the power levels again real quick. Vegeta, Yamcha, and Piccolo are all at a power level of 5 million. Nappa, Raditz, and Piccolo are all at a power level of 4 million. Tien and Krillin are trailing behind a power level of 3 million. And even Gohan and Trunks are at a power level of 600k. Over these 2 years of training, King Kai managed to get into contact with Kami, having him send Tien, Krillin, and Piccolo to train with him, with them all learning the Kaioken and Krillin learning how to do Spirit Palm. Them learning that managed to push the humans and Piccolo back into the same realm of strength as the Saiyans with their insane growth rate. They all managed to push the Kaioken to the times 10, with Piccolo's regeneration allowing him to sustain it much better than the humans can. He might even be able to push it to his times 15 in short bursts, but that would tank his stamina. With that, the Saiyans set off to defeat Frieza. We then cut to Frieza, still being suspicious of the Saiyans having went missing, when a soldier walks in, telling him that pieces of their scouters have been found in a massive crater on their last known planet. He says he believes the Saiyans have been killed, but he's not sure by what. This makes Frieza really suspicious, since there shouldn't have been anything on that planet that could take the Saiyans out that they were on. But he decides to keep it at the back of his mind, as those Saiyans couldn't really do anything worth him worrying over anyways. That's when 3 space pods crash nearby, with the Saiyans emerging, ready to end Frieza once for all. They then fly through all the soldiers Frieza had on the planet before making their way to Frieza in his chambers. They burst in, and right off the bat, Frieza's already pissed. He knew the Saiyans would show their faces again at some point. Vegeta says, "This is the end for you, Frieza, because I have obtained the power of the legendary Super Saiyan," shocking Frieza. Vegeta launches at Frieza, launching him through the wall of the building, with him chasing. He catches up to Frieza and delivers 3 more powerful attacks before kicking him down into the ground. Frieza then gets back up and immediately transforms into his final form, ready to end this little rebellion right now. Raditz and Nappa then join Vegeta as they all power up into Hikari, shocking Frieza even more. He wasn't expecting them to all be able to transform at all, since the only transformation the Saiyan should have is the giant monkey form. That's when he realizes that Vegeta might not have been lying about becoming the legendary Super Saiyan. Saiyans fly at Frieza, trying to overwhelm him with attacks, which they do for a little while before Frieza starts to show off more of his true power. He's still stronger than they are individually, but collectively, they can still overpower him. The fight starts to heat up more, with Frieza finally reaching his full power. This makes it impossible for them to do any meaningful damage to him, since there's a massive power difference. Frieza manages to catch Raditz with a devastating strike, knocking him out of Hikari and critically injuring him, before laughing as he continues to pick them apart, with Nappa falling next, being completely vaporized by a blast. Vegeta, being the last one standing, continues to fight with every ounce of power he has, but it's all in vain, as Frieza is just toying with him, saying there was no way these filthy Saiyans could have ever defeated him, continuing to beat on Vegeta as he knocks him out of Hikari. Vegeta lays there on the ground, thinking about how his plan failed miserably. He then gets back up slowly, not ready to accept it. No, he refuses to accept it. Frieza gets ready to end his life right there, as you see Vegeta gets back up, yelling as his hair turns golden. That's right, Vegeta is actually the first Super Saiyan here. He then looks at Frieza, flying over as he launches a barrage of attacks, before kicking him in the air and blowing him up with his dirty fireworks, killing him on the spot. After killing Frieza, Vegeta and Raditz use a couple of healing pods before blowing up the planet they were on, wiping out a lot more of Frieza's empire. They travel around the universe, wiping out more of Frieza's soldiers, and even managing to run to King Cold before they decide to head back to Earth. We then cut to someone looking on Earth, ready to harvest the planet's energy, as it then cuts to an image of Trunks and Gohan. Vegeta and Raditz heal up in some healing pods before blowing up the planet, erasing any evidence of their battle and destroying a lot of resources that the Frieza Empire had access to. They continue to travel around, eradicating all traces of Frieza's empire, eventually coming across King Cold, which Vegeta handles with ease since he's become the legendary Super Saiyan. Cleaning up the rest of the soldiers there, they leave, planning to return on Earth, not knowing someone has been keeping tabs on them ever since they started their journey to cleanse the universe of Frieza's army. Back on Earth, we see Goku and Yamcha sparring, with Goku actually winning this time, getting the better of Yamcha here. That's when Piccolo notices that there's a strange energy in the air, even noticing that the grass nearby started to die slowly. Kami then teleports in, telling Goku, Yamcha, and Piccolo that there seems to be a strange entity absorbing all the life force from the planet at an alarming rate. Pretty soon, the planet will become a barren wasteland, devoid of all life, with plants and animals alike dying out slowly. Concerned, I ask Kami if he knows how to stop it. He then says he has no idea, but destroying the entity could possibly stop the effects, and with the help of the Dragonballs, they could completely reverse everything that's happened so far. The three then fly off in the direction of the strange energy, eventually seeing a huge tree come into view. Shocked at how huge it is, the three prepare to destroy it with a combined blast, charging up and releasing a massive wave of energy. But right as it's about to make contact, it gets completely nullified. Confused as to why it didn't work, they see 5 people standing there, with a guy holding out his arm, having cancelled the attack with a single hand. He then looks at the three, and then says, "Now that wasn't very nice, now was it? You can't just go around destroying other people's things." Yamcha then notices this guy has a tail, and he looks very similar to Kakarot. Just who is this guy? Turles then introduces himself to the trio before saying he knows exactly who Goku and Yamcha are. He's actually intrigued with how they unlock the ability to use the Ozaru without needing full moon. Piccolo asks him why he's here, with him saying he's here for 3 reasons. 1, he's come to harvest this planet's energy for the Tree of Might. 2, he wants to test the Saiyans that have the ability to use the power of the Ozaru at will. And 3, he wants to see the potential of the hybrid Saiyans. That last one really pissed Goku and Yamcha off, since they'll never let this rando lay a finger on either one of their kids. They get ready to fight in a 5 vs 3, but that's when Krillin, Tien, and Chaozu show up, ready to back them up. Goku and Yamcha launch at Turles, and Piccolo, Chaozu, Tien, and Krillin launch at the other four, engaging in a massive battle. That's when we cut back to Vegeta and Raditz, ready to head back to Earth. But at the last second, their spaceship is shot out of the air with a ki blast, crashing right into the ground. They fly out of the debris, ready to confront the bastard that destroyed the ship, but that's when they notice the person that did it looks just like Frieza. That's right, the person that is confronting the Saiyan duo is none other than Cooler. The two Saiyans are confused as they didn't know Frieza had any more family members that were alive. But Cooler says he couldn't care less about Frieza and Kiko dying, since he didn't like either one of them either. If anything, he should be thanking Vegeta, since he would have done it himself. Confused again, they then ask, why did he shoot their spaceship down? Cooler responds saying he has to get rid of them because they still pose a threat to him if he wants to rule over the universe, and he hates the Saiyans just as much as Frieza did. Vegeta then says he should have just let them fly away on their spaceship, since he is the legendary Super Saiyan, which doesn't surprise Cooler since he already saw him use the form against King Cold. Vegeta and Raditz then get ready to fight with Cooler's armored squad surrounding Raditz. Vegeta bursts into Super Saiyan and begins to dominate Cooler in his base form, with Raditz actually having a bit of a tough time with the three members of the squad, even with Akari showing these guys aren't weak by any means. Quick note here, before we continue, these two fights are happening at the exact same time in the timeline. Vegeta and Raditz versus Cooler and his men, and the Z Fighters versus Turles and his men. I wanted these two fights to happen at the same time, since I love both of these characters a lot and didn't know how to exactly fit both of them in the timelines with what's to come in the future. I've also never seen anybody do this in a What If. I personally think this makes this What If much more unique and kind of separates the two storylines between the Saiyans, allowing for much more creativity with the story. Now, back to the What If. Raditz is really struggling a lot here with these three. He's being overwhelmed by the sheer number of coordinated attacks. Even though Raditz is stronger than every one of them individually, he's not stronger than they are as a collective. It's kind of similar to how the three Saiyans fought against Final Form Frieza in the previous part. The battle heats up more, with Cooler finally able to break away from Vegeta before he transformed into his fifth form, completely shifting the tides of the battle. Blitzing Vegeta and punching him so hard he almost knocks him out of Super Saiyan before launching him away with the force of the initial punch. Raditz, seeing this, is terrified. Even Frieza couldn't do that with his full. Mid-thought, he gets hit in the back by a ki blast, jolting him back into the fight. Vegeta is constantly being overpowered by Cooler, launching attack after attack, forcing Vegeta to try to evade as many as possible, since he can't really continue eating him over and over again. He dodges an attack, then lands an attack, then gets hit by one, with this process repeating over and over again, with Cooler taking significantly less damage than Vegeta does. Vegeta's power is also slowly dropping too because of the stamina drain that Super Saiyan has, giving Cooler an even bigger advantage. We cut back to Raditz as he's being beaten by Salza. At this point, he's even dropped out of Yukari. Bloodied and beaten, the three begin to taunt him, saying he's a sorry excuse for a warrior, even picking him up by the back of the head, showing him how badly Vegeta is losing his fight against Cooler. This really reinforces how he's always been the weakest of the Saiyans. He's not even strong enough to beat minions. All these feelings of uselessness then turn into anger, bubbling up inside, as he finally then explodes, transforming into a Super Saiyan. We then flash back to Earth, with Goku and Yamcha charging at Turles, with him blocking both attacks with ease. They then launch a barrage of attacks, with them all being blocked with little to no effort, with Turles then countering with a knee to Goku's gut, knocking the wind out of him before he teleports in front of Yamcha, hitting him in the head with an elbow, stunning him. The two recover before powering up into Akari, as they just realize he's way stronger than they thought he was. They both then dash back at Turles at full speed, actually surprising him before landing some hits of their own. That's when Turles starts to unleash a bit more of his power, blocking and countering their attacks. They go back and forth for a bit before Turles starts to overpower them again. He starts beating on the two, landing attack after attack. He ends up knocking them down on the ground out of a cart. That's when Piccolo flies in Kaioken, landing a punch, sending him flying into the tree, bouncing him off of it. He then lands a few more attacks before hitting him with a huge blast. Piccolo and the humans have all finished up their fights with his grunts, and are ready to back up Goku and Yamcha against Turles, with even Trunks and Gohan flying in to help. The smoke clears, and Turles is actually decently damaged from that barrage of attacks from Piccolo, with him even saying he might even be stronger than Yamcha and Kakarot. Piccolo, Tien, and Krillin all burst into Kaioken before rushing at Turles, with Gohan and Trunks flying down to help their fathers up off the ground. They give Goku and Yamcha a senzu bean, restoring them back to full power, as they then thanked the two. Before flying back up, they join the fight against Turles. With all the people here and them actually being decently strong, Turles is actually having a tough time here, and is even being overpowered a bit. Goku and Yamcha have both gotten a decent bit stronger after recovering with the senzu. They're actually pretty comparable to Piccolo with his maxed out Kaioken. Even the humans have started to break into a Kaioken times 15 in short bursts here. Turles, with his back against the wall in a literal sense, starts to laugh, confusing everyone. That's when he flies straight up to the top of the tree at top speed, with everyone chasing, but by the time they catch up, it's already too late. Turles has a fruit from the tree, as he then takes a huge bite out of it. Right at that moment, his power explodes, almost literally. The smoke dissipates, with him standing there with long black hair. With all the fruit he's eaten so far, and the challenge of all the people he's been fighting, this is the last fruit he needed to reach a new level of power. He then blitzes Tien and Krillin before launching a blast and erasing them on the spot. He then teleports in front of Piccolo, punching a hole straight through his chest, leaving him fatally wounded as he falls to the ground. Goku and Yamcha prepare to fight, but Turles is actually more interested in seeing what the two hybrid Saiyans could do. So he creates clones of himself to fight Goku and Yamcha while he goes and toys with the other two. Goku and Yamcha start to get pressured by the two clones, with him actually being beaten pretty quickly. Turles begins to toy with Gohan and Trunks. He's basically bullying them similarly to how Final Form Frieza was treating the Z fighters in canon, with him just beating on them. Eventually, they get angry enough to where they unlock Akari for the first time, with them getting a massive rage boost, and being in a berserk-like state, similar to how Yamcha was against Garlic Jr. This excites Turles, as this is the kind of power he's been waiting to see. They charge at Turles and actually do some decent damage to him, forcing him to use more of his power. They keep throwing attack after attack at Turles, managing to shatter pieces of his armor off. But of course, this power boost is short-lived, as they then drop in power quickly, eventually being knocked out of the form by Turles. Satisfied with their performance, he then shoots a blast at the two as they fall out of the air, vaporizing them, with Goku and Yamcha watching from the ground in horror. They lie there on the ground in shock after watching everyone, their friends and family, get killed right in front of them, with Turles saying the brats put up more of a fight than all of them, if he's being completely honest. He gave them a quick death as a sign of respect, as he then turns his attention to the two Saiyans lying on the ground. They slowly get up, full of rage. They both yell as they transform into the legendary Super Saiyan, with them glaring up at Turles. At the same time, Goku and Yamcha one-shot each of Turles' clones, with Raditz erasing all of Cooler's men in a single blast before he joins the fight against Cooler, knocking him off Vegeta. We then see Goku and Yamcha charge at Turles, and Vegeta and Raditz charge at Cooler. All four of the Super Saiyans are actually mirroring each other's attack in this sequence, with Vegeta and Yamcha launching the same attacks one-to-one, and Goku and Raditz doing the same. They completely overwhelm Cooler and Turles with their combos before they all charge up a blast, launching at each other. With the injuries they sustain, Goku, Yamcha, Raditz, and Vegeta start to lose ground and are actually on the back foot at the moment. That's when they start to feel each other's energy. They realize that all of them are fighting for their lives, putting everything into the blast. At that moment, it almost felt like their comrades were standing next to them, putting all their strength into the blast. Gohan, Trunks, Krillin, and Tien put their hands on Goku and Yamcha's backs, with Nappa doing the same for Raditz and Vegeta, finally giving them the strength to overpower them in the blast. The four Saiyans let out a roar in unison as they blast them off the planet into space. They all revert to their base form, falling onto the ground. We then cut to the blast flying in space, as they end up landing on two different sides of the same planet, with both villains being badly damaged. We then see a familiar demon land on the planet, picking up Cooler and Turles, with an evil magician ready to make them his servants, with the intention of gathering energy to release Majin Buu. Goku and Yamcha mourn the deaths of all their friends. After all, they did just violently get erased off the face of the planet without even having a chance to fight back. With Piccolo gone, they will have to try and find a way to bring them all back and repair all the damage done to the planet by their battle and the Tree of Might. That's when Kami teleports in with senzu beans, giving them each one. Healed, Goku asks how Kami is still here since they saw Piccolo get a hole put in his chest. Kami then tells them that Piccolo actually survived that attack, since his healing factor has been improving because he's been pushing his Kaioken to much higher levels. They all look over, and truly enough, Piccolo is sitting on a rock nearby holding his chest. Kami gives him a senzu bean, and they decide that it's finally time for them to remove the tree. Goku and Yamcha transform into Akari, and Piccolo powers up into Kaioken times 10, and they finally erase the parasite that is the Tree of Might off the planet. With that done, Kami decides it's time to use the Dragon Balls to repair all the damage done by the Tree of Might and revive everyone killed by Turles. But before he goes forward with the wish, he gets a message from King Kai to hold off on reviving everyone killed by Turles, since everyone there wants to train a bit more and hone their Kaioken mastery. Even Trunks and Gohan both want to become stronger after what happened. So, Kami lets Goku and Yamcha know what King Kai has planned as he goes on to restore the planet to before the Tree of Might showed up. Goku, Yamcha, and Piccolo return to Capsule Corp and tell everyone the news. The Tree of Might, Turles, and how how everyone died in battle, with Chi-Chi and Bulma bursting into tears after hearing their sons were killed so brutally. Everyone sits in silence for a little while, before someone appears wearing a Capsule Corp jacket. It's future Trunks. He's here to warn Goku and the Z-Fighters about the androids, but that's when he notices that Vegeta isn't here on Earth. Also, Yamcha has a tail? This is all very confusing, since they all should have been waiting for Goku's return. He speaks to everyone, and it turns out Yamcha is actually a Saiyan in this timeline, and he's married to Bulma. And also that they haven't fought Frieza yet. This throws everyone off, since this is Trunks from the future, and apparently he's the son of Vegeta and Bulma. They've also fought this Frieza guy that Vegeta told them about a while ago. Yeah, this is all very confusing for everyone. Hey, so I'll explain what's happened here in a bit more detail. So basically, that's still the future Trunks we all know from canon, and just like he said, he's still the son of Bulma and Vegeta. It seems like there's been a massive deviation in the timeline, since almost nothing is the same besides the name of the characters. This timeline isn't an alternate timeline here, it's actually a completely different dimension and timeline entirely. Meaning, Bulma in this didn't just create a timeline, or a time machine. She actually discovered the ability to travel through space-time with machines. Back to the what if. Trunks isn't even sure that the androids will show up at all at this point, since the timeline's events have been completely different from his own. So he still decides it's a good idea to prepare them just in case they do show up. He asks them if they know what a Super Saiyan is, which Goku and Yamcha respond they have no idea. He shows off the form, and Goku and Yamcha immediately recognize what he's talking about. They explain that they had locked this form in a battle against Turles, but they haven't been able to tap back into the form just yet. With some coaching from Trunks, they managed to transform into a Super Saiyan again, and actually surprising him, since they are actually stronger than he is by a decent margin. Actually, they might already be as strong as each of the androids from his own timeline. Trunks decides that it might be a good idea to train with them here for a little while, since he might grow strong enough to beat his own androids in his own timeline. So he asks if they wouldn't mind him joining them for training for a little while. They agree, and we head into the 3-year time skip of training for the androids. We cut back to Vegeta and Raditz having fully recovered from their battle against Cooler and his men, with Vegeta thinking it might be a good idea to try and revive Nappa. Raditz is actually surprised to hear this from Vegeta, since he never really showed he cared much for their lives anyways. Vegeta, having completed his goal of dismantling Frieza's empire, decides he might want to take over what's left of Frieza's army, renaming it the Vegeta Empire, planning to rebuild the power that the Saiyans held in the universe. But before that, Raditz think they should return back to Earth to use the Dragon Balls to revive Nappa. That's when Vegeta says he's not ready to return back to Earth just yet. He wants to get his revenge on Yamcha for besting him in their last battle, but there's no need to return back to Earth for their Dragon Balls. Vegeta reminds Raditz that the reason the Earth has Dragon Balls is because there's a Namekian there to create them. That means that there's bound to be more Dragon Balls on Namek since that's Piccolo's home planet. With that, Vegeta and Raditz decide to head off to Namek to revive Nappa with the Dragon Balls. Landing on Namek, Vegeta and Raditz fly around looking for any Namekians that could give them any information on the Dragon Balls. They land in a nearby village and all the Namekians already seem to be on edge. It looked like they were expecting someone else to arrive. Once they see the Frieza ship and the Saiyan tails, they become even more on guard. The Namekians shout that Frieza isn't welcome on their planet and they demand to know why they've come here. Vegeta immediately retaliates, saying that the Frieza force is no more since he killed Frieza. This actually shocks the Namekians, since Frieza's power is supposed to be so vast, no one should have been able to even scratch him. That's when Vegeta bursts into Super Saiyan, making all the Namekians go quiet in shock. Vegeta then says Frieza was destroyed by the very thing he feared the most, the legendary Super Saiyan. Raditz then explains that they came to the planet because they want to use the Dragon Balls to revive one of their comrades that were killed in their battle against Frieza. The Elder declines their request, saying that there's a Namekian that ended up working with Frieza, and recently he's been returning to their planet to use the Dragon Ball source on Dimfit. Actually, it's around the time that he should show. Right at that moment, a massive ship flies over their head, signifying the return of Lord Slug. The Namekians prepare themselves to confront Lord Slug as the ship lands nearby. He steps off the ship and walks right over to the village elder, ready to use the Dragon Balls. He stands towering over the village elder, saying, "You know exactly what I'm here for. Bring me the Dragon Balls or I'll reduce this entire village to dust." That's when Vegeta butts in, saying he's going to be the one to use the Dragon Balls, so he can just crawl back into whatever hole he came from. This pisses Slug off because he wasn't talking to him and he just blatantly disrespected him in front of everyone. Slug decides he's going to kill everyone in this village and destroy this entire village because of the disrespect from Vegeta. With him deciding to do that, the village elder pleads for Vegeta to stop him, which Vegeta declines since he really couldn't care less for what happened to this village and its people. The village elder looks at Slug in fear, but that's when Raditz steps in front of Slug, saying he'll fight him. Not because he wanted to save the village, but because he wants to test out this, as he then bursts into Super Saiyan. Slug says good, he'll be the first one to die from his rage. Lord Slug immediately launches at Raditz, throwing a punch that he blocks, but the force from the punch catches Raditz off guard, and he gets launched into a nearby mountain, which he catches himself by flipping and landing on the wall of the mountain before launching right back at Slug. Slug is still on the offensive, pressuring Raditz into dodging most attacks, since blocking really isn't an option. Slug extends one of his arms after Raditz dodges a punch, completely catching him off guard as he grabs him by his leg, throwing him into the water, then shooting a mouth beam at him, evaporating all of the water in the nearby area. Raditz flies back up in the air, a bit damaged by that attack. He flares his ki up to his maximum, and then blinks right in front of Lord Slug, uppercutting him and then launching him straight into the air, and then flying after him. He catches up to Slug as he elbows him in the chest, and with all the momentum from the previous strike, he deals a lot of damage to him, causing him to spit up blood and launching him out of the air. Slug gets off the ground pissed. He decides he's going to kill Raditz if it's the last thing he does. So, he starts charging his power and he starts growing in size. Using another one of his abilities, he becomes a giant. Notably, he's actually a bit stronger than before, being about 20% stronger, with the benefit of him not losing speed at all. This puts Raditz in a bit of a tough spot, since he was already struggling to avoid his attack before, and now he might not even be able to win the battle at this point. Slug immediately throws a flurry of attacks at Raditz, with him being able to dodge a few, but as soon as he got caught by a single hit, it was pretty much impossible to dodge at that point. Raditz gets back up and tries to power up with all of his might, and unintentionally, he discovers Super Saiyan Grade 2. Vegeta notices the change on Raditz, and honestly, he's a bit jealous. It seems Raditz surpassed him using this battle as a catalyst. But he then smiles, thinking how the Saiyan race is always evolving, no matter who it is. Raditz then flares his ki up to his max again, as he then flies right at Slug with his fist out. He lets out a roar as he flies straight through him. He then turns around, charging a ki in both of his hands before firing a massive double Sunday, eradicating every last trace of Slug. He powers down, landing on the ground, with the Namekians thanking him for defending his planet. As thanks, Guru decides to allow Raditz to use the Dragon Ball to grant him a single wish. They don't let him get all 3 wishes because he didn't necessarily fight off Lord Slug for a noble cause, but he still did rid them of Slug's nasty rule. Vegeta is mildly annoyed with all that's happening, and he's just ready to leave. So Raditz makes the wish to revive Nappa, which is the entire reason they came here to begin with. And with that, the Saiyan trio depart from Namek, making their way back to Earth, with Raditz and Vegeta showing off Super Saiyan to Nappa, with him being a bit embarrassed since he's the only one in the group to not have it, and he's actually the weakest in the group right now. We then cut to the Saiyan trio arriving on Earth within a 3-year training arc to prepare for the androids, with Goku, Yamcha, and Piccolo meeting up with them just like they did before. Vegeta wants to have his rematch with Yamcha, but instead Goku steps up saying he wants to fight him this time. Plus, he's slightly ahead of Yamcha as well, since he beat him in his last battle. Vegeta accepts this since this means if he beats Kakarot, then by default he beats Yamcha too. So the two fly up in the air, both bursting into Super Saiyan, with each other being surprised that they can also transform like this. They both smirk and fly at each other, and after a long and drawn out fight, Vegeta just barely edges out Kakarot, cementing himself as the second strongest Saiyan on Earth. Second, Yamcha and Goku ask. Vegeta says he hates to admit it, but yeah, he's only the second strongest right now since Raditz discovered a new level of Super Saiyan in his last battle. This surprises us too, as Raditz decides to show off, bursting into Grade 2, shocking them with the amount of energy he's emitting. Raditz explains how we got this form in this fight with Slug, him being backed into a corner and trying his hardest to release more power until eventually his power just exploded. This ignites a flame in all of the other Saiyans to reach this new level of power, and maybe even surpass it. They head back to Capsule Corp with Vegeta and Raditz bragging about all the battles they've been in, from Frieza to King Cold to Cooler and finally to Lord Slug, with Goku and Yamcha mentioning Turles, surprising the rest of the Saiyans since they believe they were the last Saiyans to be alive actually. Nappa actually remembers a Saiyan named Turles, but he shouldn't have been that strong. That's when Piccolo mentions that he planted some type of strange tree that was sucking all the life out of the planet. He ended up eating one of the fruits from the tree, and then his power exploded. It seems he's been eating those fruit from other planets for a while now. Well, enough talk for now. Yamcha wants to fight Raditz and test out this new form of Super Saiyan he attained. Goku says, no way, he's gonna fight him first. Piccolo just face palms, because these two are always trying to fight anyone considered remotely strong. With Trunks being in awe since he never knew how battle-hungry Saiyans could actually be. Gohan and Trunks are revived first, of course, since they want to both start training immediately, and Chi-Chi and Bulma wanted them back. Then, about a year later, Tien and Krillin are revived, with them gaining a better understanding of their limits and how they could be severely outpowered by alien foes very quickly. With their training with King Kai, they managed to push their Kaioken multipliers to around 30 to 35, and to times 50 with an all-out attack. Everyone on Earth starts to take training much more seriously here. They realize that they really haven't been pushed that close to losing everyone and everything since maybe Garlic Jr. This really gives Earth a wake-up call, showing them that they really aren't as experienced as the other Saiyans when it comes to battle. This marks a change in the mindset for all the fighters on Earth. Moving on to the training itself, Goku, Yamcha, Piccolo, and future Trunks train together for the first year, with the Saiyans trying to improve their control on Super Saiyan, and Piccolo pushes Kaioken to higher levels, even reaching around the 30 ranges during that year. At the start of the second year, the events of the last part happened, with Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa arriving back on Earth, with Raditz showing Goku and Yamcha and Trunks, Grade 2, with future Trunks eventually returning back to his own timeline. Eventually, the Dragon Balls reactivate, and Trunks and Gohan are revived immediately, and they start training with Piccolo. By the third year, Tien and Krillin are wished back and they join everyone with their training set up like so. Goku and Yamcha train with Vegeta and Raditz, pushing Super Saiyan to his limits and experimenting with different ways to increase power without losing speed. Gohan and Trunks train together under Piccolo and Nappa. Piccolo trains them in technique and skill while Nappa shows them how to tap back into Ikari. with Krillin and Tien popping into both groups refining their techniques. The group stay the same for about 6 months before they switch, with Vegeta and Yamcha training Gohan and Trunks, and Goku, Raditz, Piccolo, and Nappa all training with each other. Everyone grows significantly in strength and skill over the 3 years, with all the Saiyans eventually unlocking Grade 2 and Grade 3. Piccolo and the humans push their Kaioken multipliers up to around 50 to 70 times. Even the younger fighters master Ikari, with them tapping into Super Saiyan a couple of times. Before we move on to the day of the arrival of the androids, I'll go over the strength of the fighters here. Starting at the bottom, we have Gohan and Trunks. They are the weakest at the moment because they only really have access to Ikari and they can't really tap into Super Saiyan at will. Even if they could, they would still be behind the humans since they're both weaker in base and regular Super Saiyan is on the lower ends of the humans' Kaioken multipliers. Even though they might be the weakest right now, we all know the potential of the hybrid Saiyans. Next up, we have Tien, Krillin, and Nappa. The humans have grown like crazy to keep up with the Saiyans and their insane growth rate. With the Kaioken and the other techniques they have up their sleeves, they can actually force stronger fighters into using their stronger forms to swing the battle back into their favor. Then we have Nappa and Piccolo. Nappa is actually a bit weaker than Piccolo here since he has less time to master Super Saiyan to similar levels to the other Saiyans, with him only obtaining Grade 2 within the last few months of training. Then we have Yamcha, Raditz, Vegeta, and Goku. They all have access to Grade 3 and have great masteries over all their other forms. Technically, they are physically stronger than Piccolo with Grade 3, but they are all massively slower than he is, with him actually beating them all in the free-for-all with his Kaioken and his high levels of regeneration. Finally, as the strongest Z fighter, we have Piccolo. As I said before, Piccolo is technically weaker than the others, but his abilities give him a massive edge over the Saiyans, even outlasting all the Saiyans in their big free-for-all. Moving on to the android attack, we see Dr. Gero and Android 19 destroying West City, with the Z fighters showing up just like in canon. Dr. Gero talks about how it's time for the Red Ribbon Army to get their revenge. That's when 3 more androids fly in. It's Android 13, 14, and 15. They all get ready to fight, with Goku, Piccolo, and Yamcha fighting off 13, 14, and 15, and Tien and Krillin fighting Gero and 19. We see immediately the Z fighters have a pretty big upper hand here, with each fighter dominating their respective android. Goku and Yamcha actually destroy 14 and 15, with Krillin destroying 19. Gero didn't expect them to be this strong, but it should be no issue, as they haven't seen what the androids are truly capable of. He tells 13 to transform, as he absorbs all the parts from the destroyed androids into his body, transforming to Super 13. He charges at Goku and Yamcha, actually catching them off guard, as they were only in their base Super Saiyan states. He connects a few attacks before both Vegeta and Raditz fly in, landing 2 attacks that stun the android before launching a barrage of attacks, knocking him into the ground. Gero sees this and decides he needs to activate 17 and 18 ASAP. Clearly, he underestimated how strong they could get in such a short amount of time. As soon as he thought everyone was focused on Super 13, he fled, communicating with 13 to retreat as soon as he's able to. Of course, this escape didn't go unnoticed, as Piccolo, Gohan, Trunks, Tien, Nappa, and Krillin all chase after Gero. We cut to everyone chasing Gero down, eventually catching up to him in his lab. He activates the androids just as Nappa blows the doors to his labs into pieces. The androids wake up immediately and they kill Gero just like they did in canon. Just as they're about to activate 16 and fight the Z fighters, the entire place erupts in a massive explosion, with Cell emerging much earlier than he did before. Everyone is confused at first until they see Cell starting to fight both androids and eventually absorbing 17, then absorbing 18. The amount of power that Cell is emanating is honestly terrifying to say the least. He looks over at the Z fighters flexing his ki, leaving everyone shocked. He knows he can just kill everyone here in a blink of an eye, but that wouldn't be any fun now, would it? He decides to give everyone 7 days to boost their strength as much as possible for his new tournament he'll be hosting, as he then blasts off to go set up the arena for Cell games. Goku, Yamcha, Vegeta, and Raditz fight Super 13, and they're actually struggling with him even in Grade 2, before they feel a massive spike of energy, stopping them in their tracks. Then another massive spike. It feels like the entire solar system is just shaking from the pressure alone. That's when Cell flies in, relaying the message of the Cell games. Cell actually invites 13 since he's decently strong and he could be of use as an ally in the tournament. 13 says they should just kill all of them now since that's what they were created to do. It was their entire goal of the Red Ribbon Army. Cell disagrees since he really couldn't care about what Jiro wanted. He was a fool to think he could control a perfect being. 13 decides Cell should be dealt with since he's gone completely rogue and is disregarding what Jiro designed him to do. He launches at Cell, throwing a punch, but as soon as it connects, his hand just explodes on his chest. Disappointed, Cell just erases 13 on the spot with a key blast. Cell waves goodbye to the Saiyans as he flies off to build the Soul Grains Arena. The Saiyans meet up with the rest of the Z Fighters, with everyone being in total shock at how fast everything spiraled out of control. That's what Kami telepathically asks everyone to come to the lookout, as he has an idea on how they could possibly get strong enough in such a short amount of time. They make it to the lookout, and Kami explains that they could use the Room of Spirit and Time to train for an entire year in just one day on the outside. Kami thinks a year for each should be a good starting point for their group, but if they think they need more time, then it can be done. They plan out the pairings for the time chamber, with the first pairs being Goku and Gohan entering. And just like in canon, they find out the best way to utilize Super Saiyan to its maximum without sacrificing any stats, being Grade 4. Then we have Yamcha and Trunks entering, and of course they also emerge in Grade 4 Super Saiyan. Piccolo, Tien, and Krillin all go in together, with them all emerging using Kaioken times 10, almost like it's their base form for them. Piccolo even believes he's close to maxing his Kaioken multiplier to around 100 or so at this point. Next we have Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa going in the chamber, as they all emerge in Grade 4 Super Saiyan as well. They also discover that it's possible to transform into a Super Saiyan while using the Azaro transformation, but there's a major drawback to that transformation. You have no control over the form. With this little bit of knowledge, Yamcha gets an idea, but that's gonna have to wait for after Cell's been dealt with. After everyone had their turn in the chamber, Gohan and Trunks ask Piccolo if he'd be willing to go back in the room with them. They feel like they're on the verge of unlocking another transformation. Yamcha and Goku both agree, as they've both seen the potential in the time chamber, and think if anyone would stand a chance against Cell, it would be these two. Piccolo thinks about it for a bit, then agrees, saying he could use the extra training, and it could be best to have someone in the chamber to oversee their training. Kami tells Mr. Popo to restock the room before the three enter the chamber. They emerge a day later and they look almost unrecognizable. They've aged up a little bit, and Trunks looks more similar to future Trunks from the canon timeline. It seems Piccolo has led these two to unlocking some of their hidden potential, because it seems they have broken the limits of Super Saiyan, both retaining Super Saiyan 2. With 2 days left until the tournament, Kami believes everyone should rest and enjoy their couple of days of peace while they can. All the Saiyans fly off, with Piccolo, Tien, and Krillin standing behind. Krillin and Tien speak to Kami and Piccolo about how fast the Saiyans grow in strength. It's basically impossible for them to ever keep up if all they have is Kaioken at their disposal. Meanwhile, the Saiyans could just push themselves further and further ahead with transformations. Piccolo agrees, saying the only reason he's been able to keep up is because of the regeneration ability of his race. It allows him to push the Kaioken to crazy limits. Krillin then asks Kami, is there any way that they could possibly keep up with the rest of the group? It seems that the humans have a massive limit when it comes to growth. Kami thinks about it for a second. Then he remembers, some Namekians on his home planet had the ability to unlock latent potential. He just doesn't believe he has the ability to do so. So he asks Mr. Popo to bring out the Dragonballs. He believes the dragon might be able to perform the ability, but he's not completely sure since no one's ever tried to do such a thing. Shenron is summoned and is asked if it's possible, which he confirms it is. Kami then has Krillin's and Tien's potential unlocked by the dragon. With the surge of newfound power, they realize their power that they have is just mind-boggling. So quick explanation on what the humans just obtained from Shenron. What they got was really similar to what Piccolo had in the superhero movie, but in this what if, I'm treating it as a much weaker version of Ultimate, since here it's only going to be their current potential, not including if anyone were to get any transformation. For example, if the Saiyans were to get it, it would only be drawing out their max potential of their current base forms, unlike Ultimate, which I believe is a accumulation of all their forms' power being drawn out in their base forms. Now, one thing I would like to add, since Kaioken is technically a technique, it could be added to the form since they're not transforming to use it. So I'll make this form draw out their max potential while using Kaioken. If they master a Kaioken times 50, the transformation allows them to use that multiplier without all the stress of the transformation. Right now, the humans have about a Kaioken times 70 to 75. With that explanation out of the way, let's move on to the Cell games. Starting at the Cell games, we see everyone flying in, with Cell welcoming everyone to his arena. Goku and Yamcha step up first, with Cell confused for a second. He then smirks saying he'll happily take both of them on at once. They get into position and engage Cell, giving it their all, with Cell taking them on with some effort. Eventually, his Cell splits into four stuff, and then they start to get overwhelmed. After some more back and forth, they believe they've seen all they need to see, so they forfeit, surprising Cell. They tell him that there's two fighters he stand no chance against, calling Gohan and Trunks out into the arena. Unlike a canon, everyone here knows how strong these two are. Gohan and Trunks flare their ki at Cell, with him being pretty surprised at how strong they are. He thought Goku and Yamcha were just bluffing, but he sees their assessment of their power wasn't a complete over-exaggeration. Cell powers up to about 80%, and the fight continues, with Trunks and Gohan putting up an insane challenge in just their base Super Saiyan. They fight for a good while before Cell decides the tournament should be a team versus team match. So Cell spawns his Cell Juniors and all of Z fighters start fighting, with all of them actually dealing with the Cell Juniors pretty real. Actually, they're winning against the Cell Juniors right now. Even the humans have upper hand against the Cell Juniors. Cell, seeing this, is confused on how they got so strong. That's when Gohan and Trunks tell Cell it's over. They both power up, transforming into Super Saiyan 2, leaving Cell terrified. Cell can't believe this is happening. There should be no way he should lose. Gohan and Trunks walk towards Cell, ready to end his life. But that's when a pink beam hits Cell, turning him into a cookie, surprising everyone. They look over and surely enough, we see the beautiful figure of Android 21 standing there, catching the freshly made Cell cookie before eating it, skyrocketing her power even more. How is Android 21 here, you ask? Well, she was made by a supercomputer of the Red Ribbon Army while Dr. Gero was gathering data to create Cell. She was made completely without Gero's knowledge as a last resort to ensure their victory in case everything else failed. With her absorbing Cell, she transforms again into her purple form, ready to turn everyone else into candy to eat. She charges at Gohan and Trunks, and she begins to overpower them, even in Super Saiyan 2. Everyone else jumps in since she's beating them pretty badly, but even with all of them working together, they stand little to no chance against her. They all throw out some of their strongest attacks, with Android 21 just tanking them completely. That's when Krillin gets an idea. He tells Piccolo and Tien as he flies away with the two covering his escape. Krillin then sets up on the other side of the planet as he puts his arms up, gathering energy for the Spirit Bomb, asking everyone on Earth to spare a little bit of energy. Piccolo telepathically tells other Z fighters what Krillin is planning as they slowly give Krillin their energy as they fight, with Gohan and Trunks dropping out of Super Saiyan 2 to reserve energy. The Z fighters are being beaten pretty badly here, with 21 turning Raditz, Piccolo, Tien, and Nappa into candy and eating them. This actually pisses off Gohan and Trunks a fair bit since Piccolo and Nappa were their mentors. They burst back into Super Saiyan 2 and begin to put up a pretty good fight against her, but she just powers up a little bit more, knocking them both out cold. Goku, Yamcha, and Vegeta look at each other and nod, understanding that they have to buy a little bit more time for Krillin to pull off his plan. So they burst into Super Saiyan once more, flying at 21, with her beating them pretty easily, as she then turns Goku and Yamcha into candy, eating them too. Vegeta, being the last one standing, powers up as much as he could, transforming into Ikari, charging back at her. She avoids every one of his attacks, as she starts to taunt him, even flirting with him a bit, saying it'd be a shame to turn a man like him into candy. As she dodges one of his attacks, she plants a kiss right on his cheek, stunning Vegeta, before she kicks him in the stomach, sending him flying into the ground. She prepares to kill him and the two hybrid Saiyans, but that's when we cut back to Krillin, having finished charging the Spirit Bomb. As he charges his ki, he flies full speed around the planet, landing a punch right on her back that releases all the energy in the Spirit Bomb into her at once, detonating, putting an end to the android threat once and for all. Krillin flies over to Vegeta, Trunks, and Gohan, giving them each a sense of being, healing them back to full energy. They realize that everyone died in the battle against 21, with Vegeta even blushing a little bit, rethinking what happened before he got knocked out. That's when Krillin realizes that Piccolo died. That means they can't even wish everyone back that was killed in the battle. Vegeta says that shouldn't be a problem, as there's another planet that has Dragon Balls, bringing up the idea for all of them to travel to Namek to revive Piccolo, and by extension, bringing back Earth's Dragon Balls. That's when they notice movement in a pile of rocks. They look over and immediately horror appears on their face. It's Android 21. She shouldn't have survived that attack. They all get ready to fight as she gets up out of the rocks on the ground. That's when Krillin and Vegeta notice that they couldn't sense any evil in her like they did before. Also, she's not in that purple form anymore. She's still pink, but her eyes are different. Android 21 looks around confused for a second, then she realizes where she is and what she's done. He looks at the group with fear in the eyes for a second, then starts apologizing profusely for what she's done, confusing everyone. After some talking, they understand what happened and who she is. She's a bio-android created by Dr. Gero's supercomputer as a last resort for the Red Ribbon Army. She powers all the way down, returning to her human form. He looks at Vegeta blushing, saying sorry before flying away, confusing Gohan, Trunks, and Krillin. They look at Vegeta with him not saying a word before they decide to return to Capsule Corp. Heading back to Capsule Corp, Krillin asks Vegeta what Namek is like, with Vegeta explaining that the inhabitants of the planet is mostly pacifists, with them not really being that strong compared to them when they first arrived on the planet. The last time they went there was to revive Nappa, and apparently they were being subjugated by another super Namekian called Lord Slug. That was actually as strong, if not stronger than Frieza was when he first fought him. Raditz was actually the first to unlock Grade 2 during that fight, and was the reason they were even able to use the Dragon Ball, since Vegeta couldn't really care less what happened to those Namekians at the time. That's when he realizes the Namekians might not allow them to use the Dragon Ball since they didn't really part on great terms, throwing a potential wrench into their plans. The group goes silent for a bit, deep in thought. That's when Trunks says it's still worth a try since they literally have no other options right now to revive everyone, so they should still go. Gohan and Krillin both agree, saying even if the Namekians don't like Vegeta, it's still worth a shot. Besides, it's not like they really have anything to lose from trying. They arrive at Capsule Corp and discuss how they should get to Namek, with Vegeta initially suggesting they should use the ship that him and Raditz stole from Cooler, but then he realizes that it wouldn't be a good idea, remembering how they reacted to him the first time. That's when Trunks mentions his mom and his grandpa have been working on a spaceship using the parts from the ship that Goku and his father arrived in. Actually, he's been helping them build it, even helping with building a gravity chamber into the ship itself. Hell, if Vegeta can give him the coordinates, he could fly them all to Namek within a few days to even a week. That actually surprises Krillin, since he wouldn't have guessed that Trunks would follow after Bulma's footsteps, or rather be interested in those kinds of things. Before heading up to Namek, Krillin believes it's a good idea to rest for a few days. They have been in intense battle after intense battle, which can take a huge toll on you if you don't get any time to rest. They all agree, deciding they'll head out to Namek in a few days. Over the next few days, Gohan visits Capsule Corp to hang out with Trunks, even helping Trunks stock the ship with food and water for their journey. Krillin tries to relax at Kame House, with Master Roshi giving him some great words of advice. No matter how powerful of a fighter you are, there will always be some things you can't do on your own. That's why you have friends that you can rely on, especially in your times of need. Hearing the wise words from Master Roshi, Krillin regains a lot of confidence in their ability to revive everyone. He thanks Roshi. Vegeta sits on top of Kame's lookout, deep in thought. He realizes that he's the only full Saiyan left alive, and he's never really cared about any of the other Saiyans. Even though he wanted to rebuild the Saiyan Empire, he hasn't really done anything worthwhile towards it, realizing that the Saiyan Empire were powered, yes, but they didn't really show care for their own, unlike Saiyans here on Earth. That's when Vegeta decides that the time for the old Saiyan Empire has passed. Clearly, the recklessness and destructive nature of the Saiyans from Planet Vegeta led to their own downfall. Him wanting to rebuild that wouldn't change anything. It might just lead to the same downfall that the previous Saiyans already had. Leaving Vegeta deep in thought, we cut to a deserted South City with Android 21 walking around seeing all the destruction caused by the androids in the Red Ribbon Army, realizing all the work that she did for the Red Ribbon Army was just terrorism. She didn't really understand the gravity of her actions before, since she never really actually got to see the destruction, since she was just a scientist in the army. That's when she rips off the logo from her coat, burning it to ash with a ki blast, declaring she'll never use her abilities to do harm again before flying off. A few days later, we see everyone ready to head off to Namek. They all head into the ship, with Trunks showing everyone where everything is and telling them that the trip will take around 5 days in total. Everyone gets themselves situated as we blast off to Namek. Over the next 4 days, everyone trains on higher levels of gravity within their base forms, with the Saiyans not getting much stronger here. Krillin, on the other hand, had massive gains, confusing everyone else. But in the end, they ended up gaining more respect for each other as comrades and as fighters. The last day in the gravity room, everyone meditates, preserving their strength, but massively increasing their mental fortitude before they finally arrive on Namek. Exiting the ship, they see the vastness of the planet with all the different life, until Vegeta realizes there's something wrong. They should be able to sense all of the Namekians are on the planet, but there's barely any power levels around them. That's when Krillin says they should split up into groups of 2. Trunks and Gohan should check one direction while him and Vegeta check another. They nod and split up, flying separate ways. Gohan and Trunks fly around the planet, eventually landing in a nearby village, with there being some villagers already outside. But strangely enough, there's also 2 other people there. Some weird looking purple guy, and as they get a closer look at the other guy, it's Turles. They thought he'd been killed by their fathers, but somehow he's still alive. He also has this weird looking mark on his forehead, and of course they don't realize it at the time, but the other person there is cooler. They see the 2 preparing to erase the village with a blast, but right as they're about to fire, they're both kicked in the side of the head, sending them flying to the water nearby. They shout for the villagers to hide before they both get gut checked by Cooler and Turles, launching them into a nearby building. They fly back out of the rubble, ready to face Cooler and Turles. Turles finally gets a good look at the 2 before laughing, saying, "It's been a while, hybrids." Cooler, hearing this, decides he'll take care of the purple-haired one. For some reason, just looking at him pisses him off. Gohan and Trunks both look at each other, fist bumping, charging at their respective villain, engaging in combat. Cutting to Vegeta and Krillin, they're flying around, eventually running into the Grand Elder's place. But as they're about to arrive, they get blindsided by an unfamiliar figure, being the Demi King Tora. Vegeta tells Krillin he'll handle him, just go talk with the Namekians to get their wish. He'll catch up to him once he's finished with them. Krillin nods as he flies off to go talk to the Grand Elder. Reaching the Grand Elder's place, Krillin enters with Nell readying himself to fight and protect Elder Muri, but the Elder stops him, saying that the person standing in front of him isn't hostile or showing any forms of it. As a matter of fact, he sensed him landing on the planet with his comrades, and they're currently defending the planet from the foreign threat that arrived earlier. Nell calms down as Krillin speaks, saying he and his friends come to Namek to revive all of their friends that died in the battle recently, facing world-ending threats known as the androids. Elder Muri asks Krillin to come closer as he reads his mind, learning everything that happens to them so far. He understands everything and decides that they could use the Dragon Balls if they manage to rid the planet of all its invaders. Krillin agrees and prepares to fly off with the Dragon Ball, but before he does, Elder Muri unlocks his potential a bit more, giving his transformation a base multiplier of 30 times. Now whatever level of Kaioken he had before just adds to that. Krillin thanks Elder Muri as he flies off to go gather the rest of the Dragon Balls. Cutting back to Gohan and Trunks fighting Cooler and Turles, the duo is finally transformed into Super Saiyan, pushing the 2 ahead of the villains with them beating down on them for a good while. That's when Cooler and Turles believes they've seen enough, bursting into their transformation, being the evil Saiyan form and Cooler's fifth one, catching the boys off guard. Now that the tables have turned, they realize that they can't really afford to play around anymore with these 2, bursting into Super Saiyan 2. The battle becomes much more even, surprisingly, since both Cooler and Turles are both being enhanced greatly by the Majin marks on their foreheads. They were also given power by Babidi as a gamble to see if it will pay off in the future. Currently, they are each stronger than that of Super Perfect Cell and Dabura from the Canon timeline by a huge margin. Moving back to Vegeta, we see him in Super Saiyan going blow for blow with Dabura, looking pretty similarly to how Dabura vs Super Saiyan 2 Gohan would in canon. But it's short-lived as Dabura just uses his full power, starting to completely overpower Vegeta. That's when Krillin flies in, punching Dabura in the jaw, doing a lot of damage to him since he's actually currently stronger than Vegeta at the moment. Vegeta gets angry, saying he didn't need any help. That's when he realizes Krillin is actually stronger than he is by a decent margin. Krillin tells Vegeta that he gathered all the Dragon Balls, but he needs a password. He says he was going to go ask the Elder, but he saw that he was starting to lose against Dabura. Is he sure he could beat this guy all by himself? Hearing that, Vegeta goes silent. He realizes that he's been fighting with so much pride, he doesn't even realize he's fighting a losing battle. That's when he remembers his fight against Frieza. He remembers how he almost died against Frieza because he underestimated him while simultaneously overestimating himself to an absurd degree. That's when he starts to understand how Raditz, Kakarot, and Yamcha kept breaking their limits. They don't let their pride go to their heads as often as he does. He looks at Krillin fighting Tora as he finally understands that he wasn't fighting with Saiyan pride. He was fighting with his own superiority complex. His power skyrockets as he flies back in, punching Tora so hard he flies off the planet. Krillin looks at Vegeta saying, it's about time he got over the mental block. Now they should go to Elder Murray to get the password and regroup with Gohan and Trunks. Cutting back to Gohan and Trunks, we see them being put on the back foot. They should be easily beating these two in just Super Saiyan, but for some reason they're losing. They actually get beat out of Super Saiyan 2 back into their base forms, with Turles taunting both of them saying, they're still just as weak as they were when he killed them back on Earth. Actually, the only reason they won was because their father saved the day, but there's no one here to save them now. They both stand there, actually horrified. Underneath all that power and rage, they are still just kids, of course. Their mental fortitudes can only hold so much. That's when Krillin and Vegeta fly in, giving them backup. Of course, Krillin and Vegeta both know who these two are. Turles smirks, saying, the human he killed back on Earth is saving the day? Who'd have thought? Cooler doesn't say anything, as he just charges at Vegeta, pushing him back immediately. Krillin asks the two if they're alright as he helps both of them off the ground. That's when Turles laughs again, saying, you two are so pitiful, you both need a weakling like him to save them? They might as well just die again. This really pissed Krillin off, with him charging up to his full power, blitzing at Turles, landing a punch that actually knocks the wind out of him. He tells Turles that those two boys are some of the best people he's ever had the pleasure of knowing, and he firmly believes that their fathers are proud of the warriors they've become today. Vegeta even tags in saying, you boys are not focused on yourselves. You've gotten into your heads that you're helpless and you can't even protect yourselves, but where is this against Cell? You two have always been confident in your abilities as humans, now you need to be confident in your ability as Saiyans. Hearing this, Gohan and Trunks both sit there in shock. That's when they feel a hand on their shoulders. Turning around, they see both the figures of Goku and Yamcha smiling at them. This really opens their eyes to how meaningless their struggles have been, as they've been mentally handicapping themselves. They then explode into Super Saiyan 2, appearing in front of both Cooler and Turles, punching them so hard they circle the planet, crashing into each other, with them both charging up full power Kamehameha, causing a beam clash with each other, catching both Turles and Cooler in the middle. They put more and more power into the blast, trying to overpower each other, with the two villains in the middle eating the full brunt of each of the beams until it eventually explodes, erasing them off the face of the planet. Powering down, they fist bump again, saying that was fun, with Vegeta and Krillin finally smirking as they all head over to the Elder's place to use the Dragonballs. Arriving at Elder Murray's place, he thanks everyone there for helping, with them even saying he forgives Vegeta for his actions previously. As promised, he allows them to use the Dragon Balls to revive their fallen comrades, in which they happily take. He even unlocks their potentials, boosting their power even higher. They thank Elder Murray as they head back to their ship, leaving and head back to Earth. Meanwhile, on a nearby planet, we see a small magician and a servant ready to return to Earth as well. They've gathered about 75% of the energy he needed to revive Majin Buu. Babidi says he should play it safe for now, as they have all the time in the world to gather energy. With all the fighters on Earth, it would be a simple task to do, and besides, he wants to investigate that thing that was messing with Majin Buu's egg. Heading back to Earth, Gohan, Trunks, Vegeta, and Krillin rest for the next few days. After everything that's happened within the past few years, these few days of rest is really appreciated by the group. They arrive back on Earth and are greeted by the faces of their friends and family. With everyone finally wished back, we head into an era of peace spanning over the next 7 years. Over this time, everyone has grown in many different ways, with the main notable change being Gohan and Trunks finally hitting their growth spurts. They look much older, with both of them attending the same high school in Sadie City, being in the same class. Of course, this doesn't mean that they've been slacking off in training in the slightest. They've still kept up with it, still being the two strongest on Earth at the moment. A couple years into the time skip, the group actually wishes the androids back to life. They didn't really get a chance to do anything, and honestly, the first thing that they did when they got out was kill Dr. Zero. They personally don't think that makes them inherently evil, so they give him another shot at life. The group comes to an agreement and they finally revive him. Of course, Krillin still ends up together with Android 18 during the gap, even having married just like they did in canon. This isn't the only relationship that developed during this time, since Vegeta and Android 21 finally get together. Android 21 has slowly been accepted into the group, and even has a job at Capsule Corp working with Bulma. They start off a bit rocky at first, but they manage to get past all the awkwardness, starting a relationship, even getting married 4 years into the time skip. Moving on, Gohan and Trunks both end up stopping criminals in Satan City as golden fighters, but they soon realize that they can't just use Super Saiyan as a disguise, since people soon start to recognize their school badges, raising a lot of suspicion in the two. That's when Trunks gets the idea to make superhero costumes. He makes them with some feedback from Bulma and Yamcha, with the designs being similar to Goten and Trunks from the superhero arc. With the new disguises made, they go on to become Great Saiyaman 1 and 2, eventually running into Videl with her slowly figuring out their identities. One time, in a fight, Gohan gets his helmet knocked off in front of Videl, with her blackmailing him and Trunks into entering the World Tournament like she did in canon. Gohan and Trunks both mention it to everyone, and they all end up wanting to participate in the World Tournament. With all the training they've done, this tournament will be very interesting to see. Before we move on, I think we catch up on some of the other characters, starting with the humans. As I said before, Krillin is married with 18, and he still has Marin like he does in canon. He's also managed to break his Kaioken multiplier so hard that the multiplier for his full power transformation is unquantifiable. Next up, Tien. Now, he might actually be stronger than Krillin because Krillin now has a family, making it a bit harder for him to train as often as he usually does. That, and him actually leaving the planet to explore and learn new techniques, he's managed to gain a lot of new abilities, mainly from his time spent on Yardrat. He learned a lot of spirit manipulation abilities, allowing him to heal, teleport, split energies with spirit vision, size manipulation, and how to separate himself into clones without losing strength. If he's not physically stronger than Krillin, he's much more versatile than he is by a long shot. Moving on to the Saiyans, Nappa is starting to show his age at this point. He's slowly growing gray hairs and he's actually losing his strength. He's actually planning on retiring from fighting real soon, realizing it's going to be hard for him to keep up with everyone else. Next up, Vegeta. Again, Vegeta got married to 21 and they're actually living in West Cities close to Capsule Corp. 21 is actually working with Bulma, helping them to improve their tech, and is trying to do good as a way to atone for what she's done in the Roman army. Vegeta and Yamcha spar with each other from time to time, even unlocking Super Saiyan 2 within their first year and fully mastering the form. Next, we have Raditz. He's been bouncing back and forth between Kamen House and Mount Paozu, training with Goku and Gohan. He even ends up starting a relationship with Launch after a few years of interacting at Kamen House, planning to get married after the World Tournament's over. Next up, Goku and Yamcha. Now, Goku and Yamcha have been training a lot over the last 7 years, even learning and fully mastering a couple of techniques from the afterlife. Currently, Goku is the strongest of the full-blooded Saiyans, as he's the first to unlock Super Saiyan 3, although he has very limited usage of the form, since there is a massive flaw with the form, being huge stamina drain. Seeing the glaring flaws of the form, Yamcha decides he's not going to try to obtain the form. Instead, he's going to continue working on something he thinks will work, but there's no telling if it will. Goten is still born here, with him being much stronger since Goku is still alive in his timeline, and he has a much stronger Gohan and Trunks to train with. Then we have Piccolo. He's become one of the more powerful fighters, with him finally getting his potential unlocked by the dragon like the humans did back in the Cell Saga. Currently, he's sitting right between Goku and Yamcha as the fourth strongest from the group. With that covered, we head over to the tournament. Everything plays out a bit similarly to how it does up in canon, up until we get to the finals of the Juniors division. Here, Supreme Kai and Capito Kai both speak to the group, telling them that the magician Babidi might already have enough energy to revive Majin Buu, but it's a bit hard to tell. He's actually a bit confused as to why Babidi hasn't already activated the seal to revive Majin Buu yet. That's when the ground starts to shake violently, throwing everyone off. Then a massive wave of energy sweeps over the area. Shin's face shifts from confusion to horror as Babidi teleports into the center of the World Tournament Arena with Majin Buu and Deborah, finally ready to get his revenge on the Kais for selling Buu away before. Backing up a few years, Babidi and Deborah finally arrive on Earth. But before they enact any further steps of their plan, Babidi is informed by one of his minions that he's found out what was tampering with Buu's egg. It was a mechanical device built to gather data by one of the inhabitants of the planet in an attempt to conquer the world. But it seems his plan failed catastrophically, leading to his death by one of his lesser creations. Apparently, one of his creations that has the biodata of Majin Buu still roams around the planet. They go by the name Android 21. Babidi uses his magic orb to take a look at 21, seeing she does in fact have some of the traits of Majin Buu, but it seems like it's very negligible, as she doesn't have the destructive nature of Buu or even has a shred of malice in her heart at the moment. For now, he tells the minion to keep an eye on her while they go and gather more energy to revive Majin Buu. Fast forwarding to the tournament starting, Babidi makes sure he has all his preparations set as he's getting ready to revive Buu. But just before he does, Dabura returns from the demon room with a strange artifact in his hands. He gives it to Babidi, saying it houses a lot of energies from the demon kings of the demon realm, with the strange artifact emitting crazy amounts of malice. Babidi takes the artifact and decides this will be their last resort tactic if it comes to it. Coming back to the present, Dabura and Buu immediately blast parts of the arena away with ease, shocking everyone on the sidelines. That's when Vegeta and Krillin realize that Dabura is still alive. That's when Dabura turns to the group as he spits on Gohan, Trunks, Krillin, Piccolo, and Kibito, turning them all into stone before they can even react. This actually surprises Vegeta since when he first fought him, he didn't use his ability for some reason, even though it could have easily taken him by surprise. That's when Shin tells him he probably didn't use it because he didn't have to. He was using him as a means to gather energy for Buu. Babidi looks over at the group as he finally commands Majin Buu to wipe them all out, with Majin Buu ready to turn them all into candy. Shin moves the statues out of the way as Goku, Yamcha, and Raditz get ready to fight Buu, and Vegeta gets ready to end Dabura once and for all. They all stare each other down until Goku, Yamcha, Vegeta, and Raditz all burst into Super Saiyan 2 as they blast off towards Buu and Dabura, engaging in combat, with the Saiyan trio actually overpowering Buu initially. Buu is a lot stronger here, but the Saiyans are so much stronger than they are in the canon timeline, it doesn't really make this a fight at the moment. Eventually, Buu starts to get more and more angry, splitting off into two separate entities, Evil Buu and Good Buu, starting the fight, catching everyone there off guard. Meanwhile, Vegeta and Dabura are actually going head to head, with Dabura finally using his full power. He's even amped a bit more by Babidi just before they started the resurrection of Majin Buu. Although they seem to be even right now, Dabura's power amp seems to only be a temporary boost in power as he slowly starts to be overpowered by Vegeta. Him slowly losing power and Vegeta getting more aggressive with his assault leads to a swift defeat of Dabura with a single blast. With Dabura defeated, everyone that was turned into stone has been turned back, stacking the odds even further against Babidi. That's when we cut back to the Buus fighting, as Evil Buu finally absorbs Good Buu, making his power skyrocket, transforming into Super Buu. Buu then looks back at the three Saiyans, knowing he's still not strong enough to take on all of them, so he sweeps the area with the Chi Blast, kicking up a dust cloud. With everyone's vision impaired, he rips off pieces of himself as he starts launching them at the fighters, managing to land a few pieces on Goku, Raditz, Piccolo, and Vegeta, completely absorbing them, becoming Buu-Ku. Okay, the situation has become much worse, as Buu is now stronger than he's ever been before, and he has gained the intelligence of Piccolo, Goku, and Vegeta in all of their fighting abilities. Even with Gohan and Trunks being the strongest of the group, they would still struggle to beat all of them, and considering Buu can just absorb people by getting a piece of him onto you, it makes it too much of a gamble to try to fight him when he has so much up his sleeve. That's when Yamcha tells Shin and Kibito to get the boys out of here. He could try his best to hold them off for them to escape. Of course, Shin thinks it's suicide, but Kibito realizes if they all try to flee, Buu could just destroy the planet and be done with it. Gohan, Trunks, and Goten all protest, saying they could still help, but he just tells Shin and Kibito to get them out of here as they then teleport to the world of the Kais. Finally alone with Buu, Yamcha decides it's now or never, as he drops back into his base form, confusing Buu. That's when he transforms into Okari as he begins to power up all his might. He grows in muscle mass and his hair grows longer. Then his arms and chest grow out fur. Finally, as the transformation completes, Yamcha is standing there looking down at his hands, amazed that it actually worked, as he just became the first Super Saiyan 4. Buu is completely at a loss for words since none of the fighters he absorbed has any knowledge of this transformation. Yamcha gets ready for round 2, saying Buu is going to pay for all the people he's killed in the Tora today. He flies at Buu, completely catching him off guard with the sheer amount of speed he has, landing a thunderous elbow right to Buu's face, sending him flying. Buu catches himself, knowing he can't toy with Yamcha right now since his fighting style is different from before when he fought him in Super Saiyan 2. Almost like he's more aggressive and more unpredictable with his attacks in his new form. Using the knowledge of the other fighters, he believes it might be best to try to outlast Yamcha with his regeneration since he's just unlocked up for him. So he plays it slow, not really launching too many big attacks while mostly focusing on defense. Eventually, Yamcha does start to wear down, slowly giving the edge to Buu. That's when we get the unexpected appearance of Tien. He's been watching the fight from a distance since Buu arrived, learning he's absorbed a multitude of his friends, but luckily Tien has just the thing to fix that. Using his full power, he lands a flurry of attacks on Buu while he was getting ready to shoot a blast at Yamcha. At first, Buu laughs, thinking Tien, even using his most powerful attacks, couldn't even scratch him if he tried. That's when he starts to feel funny. His body begins to become unstable very quickly, but before Buu can even realize what's going on, Tien flies back in, landing more and more attacks. By the time Buu realizes what's happening, it's already too late, as pieces of him start to fly off, releasing the people he has absorbed. First Piccolo, then Raditz, then Vegeta, then Goku, and then finally the other Majin Buu. This causes Buu to start transforming again, but it seems he's not getting much weaker than when he absorbed the other Buu. The transformation completes, and we see Kid Buu standing there with an angry look on his face. Off rip, the first thing he tries to do is destroy the planet with a Ki blast, but it's stopped by Yamcha. He then tries again, but gets stopped by Yamcha being kicked in the face before he can even shoot off another blast. Finally getting his attention, he turns to Yamcha with a smirk on his face as he extends one of his arms and punches Yamcha in the face. They continue fighting, and even with Buu's unorthodox ways of fighting and his limitless regeneration, he's still losing pretty badly. Seeing Buu lose even after reverting to his most formidable form, Babidi believes it's time that they use their trump card, teleporting into the battlefield with the artifact. He chants a few words, and the artifact flies at Buu, merging with him. There's an eruption of energy, throwing Yamcha and Tien off balance. The dust settles, and we see Kid Buu standing there, but he looks different. He's a bit more purple now, and his energy is even more malicious than it was before, turning the sky dark with just his presence alone. We know this character is a fusion of Janemba and Buu, but he's just Buu infused with massive amounts of demonic energy from the previous Demon Kings. So for now, we'll call this transformation Demon King Buu to keep it simple. Yamcha and Tien both prepare to fight, but before they can even put their guards up, Buu swipes his finger in front of him, releasing an attack that looks like a lot of glass shards cutting deep into the fighters, badly injuring them. That's when we see an unfamiliar fighter flying. He has black and purple hair and a sword. He looks like Gohan. No, he looks like Trunks. Yamcha looks over with a grin on his face, saying they finally did it before passing out. The mysterious fighter is a fusion between Gohan and Trunks. Gohanks. A bit of backstory on how they know the fusion dance here. Goku and Yamcha didn't necessarily go to King Kai's planet. King Yama and King Kai believed it would be a much better idea for them to go see other fighters in the afterlife, since they already have little to no need for a lot of King Kai's techniques. In the time they were meeting the other fighters in the afterlife, they ran into the Memorians, eventually picking up on how to do the dance, but they never really had a reason to use it themselves. They did, however, come across a few Yardratians in the afterlife, which is how Tien knew about them and why he went to continue training with them. Moving back to the fight, Gohanks power up to his full power, blessing Buu. He unsheaths his sword and slashes over and over again, dicing him up before he can regenerate, and he's almost completely vaporized. Buu regenerates fully, looking at Gohanks as they disappear from the area, causing shockwaves all around the planet just from the clashing fists. With each punch, they tear at the fabric of space, with them eventually ripping a hole into another dimension to continue in their fight there. With all the damage they're causing to the universe, Gohanks believes he has to end this now, transforming into Super Saiyan 3, coating his sword with blue energy. He teleports all around, rapidly slashing at Buu, cutting into him, erasing pieces of him from existence. Buu tries to regenerate, but it doesn't work for some reason. That's when Gohanks retrieves the energy from his sword, blasting the remains of Buu, completely erasing him from existence. Powering down, Gohanks diffuses, as he just used up all his energy to completely remove Buu from existence as the Terran reality closes behind him. Gohan and Trunks go back to the destroyed tournament arena, meeting up with Shin and Capito, thinking they're already healing everyone who's fought against Babidi and Majin Buu. With everyone back to full health, Shin thanks everyone for helping him deal with Majin Buu and Babidi, saying he's forever grateful to have such a powerful fighter protecting the universe from threats like them. Fast forwarding a few hours, they use the Dragonballs to repair all the damage done to the planet and revive all the people who were killed in battle. Unknowingly, the energy of the Dragonballs have been shifting ever so slightly as a small chip starts to appear in one of the Dragonballs. Far off in the universe, this fight hasn't gone unnoticed. Whis looks into his staff, intrigued at what's transpired. He's certain Lord Beerus would be interested to see this when he wakes up, so he'll keep a close eye on Earth for now. With that, we end this part off here, heading into the events of Dragon Ball Super. What do you guys think about this part? Who do you think is going to give Beerus the best fight when he inevitably arrives on Earth? Leave your thoughts and ideas in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe. Catch y'all next time. Peace.